Welcome back, my friends. Today, we're going to start on a new adventure of reading a book that has a few less pictures and there's more story involved. And the name of this book is there's a couple of books inside of the book. There's Blue Moose and Return of the Moose. That's what the cover looks like. And it's written by Daniel Manus Pinkwater. So what I'll do here is, as I read the story, when there's a picture to be seen, I will show you the picture. So let's get started. First chapter, Moose Meeting. Mr. Breton had a little restaurant on the edge of the big woods. There was nothing north of Mr. Breton's house except nothing, with trees in between. When winter came, the north wind blew through the trees and froze everything solid. Then it would snow, and Mr. Breton didn't like it. Mr. Breton was a very good cook. Every day, people from the town came to his restaurant. They ate gallons of his special clam chowder. They ate plates of his special beef stew. And they ate fish stew with Mr. Breton's special homemade bread. The people from the town never talked much, and they never said anything about his cooking. This is the artist's rendition of what that place looked like out in the woods. Did you like the clam chowder? Mr. Breton would ask. Yup, the people from the town would say. Mr. Breton wished they would say, "Oh, delicious," or "Oh, good chowder, Mr. Breton." All they ever said was, "Yep." In winter, they came on skis and snowshoes. Every morning, Mr. Breton went out behind his house to get firewood. He wore 3 sweaters, a scarf, galoshes, a woolen hat, a big checkered coat, and mittens. He still felt cold. And sometimes animals came out of the woods to watch Mr. Breton. Raccoons and rabbits came. The cold didn't bother them. It bothered Mr. Breton even more than they watched him. One morning, there was a moose in Mr. Breton's yard. It was a blue moose. When Mr. Breton went out his back door, the moose was there, looking at him. And after a while, Mr. Breton went back in, closed the door, and he made a pot of coffee while he waited for the moose to go away. It didn't go away. It just stood in Mr. Breton's yard, looking at his back door. So Mr. Breton drank a cup of coffee, the moose stood in the yard, and Mr. Breton opened the door again. "Shoo, shoo, go away," he said. There's Mr. Breton with all of his clothes on, talking to the moose. I guess because this picture is black and white, you have to imagine the moose being blue. The moose said, "Do you mind if I come in and get warm? I'm just about frozen." The moose brushed past him and walked into the kitchen, his antlers almost touching the ceiling. The moose sat down on the floor next to Mr. Breton's stove. He closed his eyes and he sat leaning towards the stove for a long time. Mr. Breton stood in the kitchen looking at the moose. The moose didn't move. Wisps of steam began to rise from his blue fur, and after a long time the moose sighed. It sounded like a foghorn. Can I get you a cup of coffee?" Mr. Breton asked the moose. "Or some clam chowder?" Clam chowder," said the moose. Mr. Breton filled the bowl with creamy clam chowder and set it on the floor. The moose dipped his big nose into the bowl and snuffled up the chowder. He made a sort of slurping, whistling noise. "Sir," the moose said, "this is wonderful clam chowder." Mr. Breton blushed a very deep red. Do you really mean it? Sir, the moose said, I am eating some of the very best chowder in my time, and yours is the best. There's Dave, Mr. Breton. So Mr. Breton is very happy because he's getting some positive feedback. Do you give your mom or your dad positive feedback when they make you breakfast or lunch and say, this is the very best I've ever had? They like to hear that. Everyone likes to hear that they've done a good job. Oh my, said Mr. Breton, blushing even redder. Oh my, would you like some more? Yes, with crackers, said the moose. The moose ate 17 bowls of chowder with crackers. Then he had 12 pieces of hot gingerbread and 48 cups of coffee. While the moose slurped and whistled, Mr. Breton sat in a chair. Every now and then he said to himself, Oh my, the best he's ever eaten. Oh my. Later, when some people from the town came to Mr. Breton's house, the moose met them at the door. How many people in your party, please? The moose would ask. I have a table for you. Please follow me this way. The people from the town were kind of surprised to see the moose. They felt kind of like running away, but they were too surprised. The moose led them to a table, brought them menus, looked at each person, snorted, and clumped into the kitchen. There are some people outside. I'll take care of them, he told Mr. Breton. The people were whispering to one another about the moose when he clumped back to the table. Look at the size of those antlers on that moose, huh? Touching the ceiling. That's pretty incredible. Are you ready to order? Yep, the people from the town said. They waited for the moose to ask them if they would like some chowder, the way Mr. Breton always did. But the moose just stared at them as though they were very, very foolish. The people felt uncomfortable. Oh, we'll have the clam chowder. Chaudier de clam, very good, the moose said. Do you desire crackers or homemade bread? Oh, we'll have the crackers, said the people from the town. I suggest you have the bread. It's hot, said the moose. Okay, we'll have the bread, said the people from the town. And for dessert, said the moose, will you have fresh gingerbread or apple jaquette? I don't know. What do you recommend? Asked the people from the town. After the chaudier de clam, the gingerbread is the best. Well, thank you, said the people from the town. It's my pleasure to serve you, said the moose. And the moose brought bowls of chowder balanced on his antlers. Well, he is a smart moose. Look at that, huh? Bowls of chowder up on his antlers. Good job, Mr. Moose. At the end of the meal, the moose clumped to the table. Has everything been to your satisfaction? He would say. Yep, said the people from the town, their mouths full of gingerbread. I beg your pardon, said the moose. What did you say? It was very good, said the people from the town. It was the very best we've ever eaten. I will tell the chef, said the moose. The moose clumped into the kitchen and told Mr. Breton that the people from the town had said that the food was the best they had ever eaten. Mr. Breton rushed out of the kitchen and out of the house. The people from the town were sitting on the porch, putting on their snowshoes. Did you just tell the moose that my clam chowder was the best you've ever eaten? Mr. Breton said. Yep, is what the people from the town said. We said that. We think that you are the best cook in the world. We've always thought so. Always? Mr. Breton said. Of course, the people from the town said. Why do you think we walk 7 miles on snowshoes just to eat here? The people from the town walked away on their blue not blue, on their snowshoes. Mr. Breton sat on the edge of the porch and he thought it over. When the moose came out to see why Mr. Breton was sitting outside without his coat on, Mr. Breton said, "Do you know those people think I am the best cook in the whole world?" "Well, of course they do," the moose said. "Do you want me to go into town to get some crackers? We seem to have run out of the crackers." Yes," said Mr. Breton, "and get some asparagus too. I'm going to cook something special tomorrow." "Oh, by the way," said the moose, "aren't you cold out here?" No, no, no. I'm not the least bit cold," Mr. Breton said. "This is turning out to be a very mild winter." Well, that was the end of that chapter. Now, if you like, either today or tomorrow, you can make a picture of your own moose, but you make your moose blue. Just like the story says, just like the cover, a blue moose. And be sure to tell the person that makes your food how much you appreciate it. And without ever fail, brush your teeth and wash your hands. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.